Welcome to the third session, where we will be looking at recruitment and selection. Most MSMEs have challenges in this regard, but I am sure that by the end of this session, you will feel more confident about recruiting good staff for your business. Every business needs a recruitment policy. Recruitment goes beyond filling a vacancy. It also involves recognizing that a position is available, analyzing the job requirements, writing the job listing or writing the job description, advertising the job to the right candidate pool, and collecting applications. Before you can start your recruitment, you need to undertake an analysis of the jobs you want to fill. Job analysis is a systematic process of collecting complete information pertaining to a job. It is a detailed examination of 1. The tasks that make up the job, which is the employee role. 2. Conditions under which an employee performs his or her job. And thirdly, what exactly a job requires in terms of aptitudes, attitudes, knowledge, skills, educational qualifications, and the physical working condition of the employee. The main purpose of conducting job analysis is to prepare the job description and job specification, which would help to hire a skilled workforce. Job analysis, therefore, is a procedure through which you determine the duties and responsibilities, nature of the jobs, and finally to decide qualifications, skills, and knowledge to be required for an employee to perform a particular job. Job analysis helps to understand what tasks are important and how they are carried on. Job analysis can be used to identify areas where an employee needs training, since job analysis makes it clear to understand about core duties and responsibilities of a job. When you have analyzed the job, you can then proceed with writing the job description. The job description is a statement of information about duties and responsibilities of a particular job. It produces a realistic picture of a job and answers the question, what does the person in this role actually do? The job description provides information necessary to classify the position, not the person. It sets the foundation for recruiting, developing, and retaining talent. It sets the stage for optimum work performance by clarifying responsibilities, expected results, and evaluation of performance. Let me clarify here. A job specification is a statement of information about qualifications, special qualities, skills, and knowledge required for an employee to fit for a job. This is different to a job description. A job description not only describes the position's responsibility, it is also an important component to maintaining an equitable compensation system and ensuring legal compliance. The document should be revisited and updated in line with the annual performance evaluation cycle and if anything changes in the job. What are the contents of a job description? We have first and foremost the title. Then we need to have the objective of the job, responsibilities, tasks, job relation, and scope of power. In some organizations, the job descriptions may contain different and additional information such as relationships, supervisory responsibilities, superiors, lateral colleagues, working hours, working conditions, etc. But the 6 areas I mentioned earlier are the most important ones to include in a job description. I am now going to talk about the STAR tool. The STAR tool is a method where employers can find out how candidates would act in certain situations on the job based on their past experiences. It is a technique that would help you ask questions to understand how the candidate will perform in the role. It helps you gain deeper insight. So this method is based on the premise that past behavior and performance are the basic predictors of future behavior and performance. In an interview setting, the STAR tool question structure will be based on stating a case or a scenario and asking the candidate about the actions he or she took during that scenario and what the result of their action was. For example, if someone is applying for the position of a sales manager, the interviewer can ask, "Tell us what you did when you noticed that a salesman tried to fabricate sales volume. What was the result of your actions?" The candidates may then respond as follows: "I compared sales volume and purchase orders during the month in question, checked the stock at distributors and agents, uncovered evidence of the fabrication, serious punishment was meted out on the salesman, which was a dismissal from the company." With this kind of response from the candidates, the interviewer can predict 1. The kind of experience that the sales manager has, his behavior in handling this kind of issues, problem-solving skills, and whether he's suitable for the company. This kind of technique, behavioral interviewing, helps businesses in many ways. It provides real information on real people and real events. It saves time. It limits costs. It does not require any expert analysis. It requires reasonable interviewing skills, and it is compatible with Nigerian culture. What this means is that it will minimize subjective decisions in recruitment. It is also suitable for every type of business, and it is a tool is a tool for behavioral interviewing. What do we mean by STAR? STAR stands for situations, tasks, actions, results. So what we are saying is that you can use STAR to pick your star. How do we then identify and pick a star? There are 3 steps to follow in picking a star candidate. The first one is to develop your recruitment criteria using what we call the ASK model, ASK. We will look at this model shortly. The next step will be to prepare questions using the STAR question structure. The last step is to collate the candidate's responses and use these responses to classify the stars. We will now look at these steps closely. Developing a recruitment criteria. The first step is to develop the recruitment criteria using the ASK model, ASK. What do we mean by ASK? ASK stands for attitude, skill, knowledge. Under the ASK model, there are 3 components that form competency, and these are attitude, skill, and knowledge. Let's be clear about competency. Competency is the ability to perform a task effectively, to apply or use the set of related knowledge, skills, and abilities required to successfully perform critical work functions or tasks in a defined work setting. In setting your criteria, therefore, these are the things you will be identifying for the position. Please note that each job or task requires a different set of attitudes, skills, and knowledge. Attitude, skill, and knowledge form competency that each employee should have for the job or task. The criteria you set for each job should therefore be based on these components. We will see an example shortly. Here is an example of what a competency grid looks like. On the extreme left, you will see the task column. Then you will see knowledge, skill, and attitude. You will now see rows where each of the tasks expected has been listed. Do bear in mind that each job or task requires a different set of attitudes, skills, and knowledge that defines the employee or candidate's ideal behavior. So, you list the task that has to be done under the task column, and then you list the competencies required under each component of the ASK model. When you have done this, you now have to put in place the competency levels. Competency levels represent a progression, roughly from being a novice to an expert in something. Each level will generally have its own standards and criteria for achievement, as can be seen on the example on this slide. The number of levels in each competency dimension depends on the company, and the table you are looking at now is just provided as an example. Let me make it a bit clearer. You can see the competency levels range from basic to advanced. Basic being 1, advanced being 4. So as an example, if you are a small business owner running a language school, the competency level you would expect for your employees will differ. The teachers, for example, will be at an advanced level, so their competency level should be 4, whereas the receptionist might be a 1. This is what we mean by having the competency levels for each job. Each job will require a different set of competency levels. The standard competency levels that you use are based on the results of the job analysis you have done for each job. So nothing is done in isolation. And what this does is they help you to identify the minimum competency level needed to do the job. Identification of the standard competency level is based on the results of the job analysis. After drawing up your competency levels for the candidates, then you prepare your questions for the interview. The questions you prepare should be open-ended questions. They should focus on the job. They should lead the candidate through the challenges of the new job. What do I mean by open-ended questions? Open-ended questions are questions that elicit more responses from the candidate. These are questions that start with H, how, and what, when, where, and why. So a quick way to remember is to think of H as maybe the husband. So I normally give it a name. I might say Hamid and his 4 wives. Or it can be Henry and his 4 wives. The important thing is to remember to use those style of questions. How, what, when, where, and why. This will help the candidates give you more details about what they're talking about. So as an example, you might say, you used to be a sales manager. What did you do when sales reports were late? What were the results of your actions? That will get the candidate talking about his actions. This is different to what we call closed questions. Closed questions are the ones where the candidate will only reply yes or no. Apart from the questioning principles I just mentioned, you also need to bear some things in mind during the interview. These are things like how to attract the candidate. And by this I mean inspire confidence in the candidate and clearly respond to all their questions, and you must convey the goodwill of your own company. You need to take notes. You take notes on the main points. You confirm answers if you are not clear about what the candidate said before you move on to the next question. You observe the candidate. You look at their attitude, the behavior, appearance, the posture, dressing, and manner of expressing themselves. You should also listen. You need to spend greater time listening to the candidate. Let them be the one giving you information. Be an active listener. Do not interrupt them or give unnecessary comments, or, like some people do, end their sentences for them. Do not rush to conclusions or argue with the candidate. Ask for clarification when needed. These do's I have mentioned, I call my ATOL. ATOL. Attract, take notes, observe, and listen. On the flip side, of course, there are some things that you shouldn't do during the interview. Please do not misrepresent the job. Don't exaggerate the job either. Don't make impossible promises or commitments. Don't be secretive during negotiations about your working conditions or the benefits or the responsibilities of the job. Don't turn the interview into a private talk. And most importantly, don't organize the interview badly. By this I mean, make sure that you schedule sufficient time for each interview. Don't take phone calls during the interview. Don't let your other employees or managers come and interrupt you during the interview. Give the candidate 100% of your time. Make sure the interview is held in an atmosphere that is conducive, that is quiet, that is amiable. The reception of candidates and the organization of the interview are very important in the eyes of candidates. Candidates will want to work for professional organizations, and the interviewer must meet this expectation. Once the interviews are concluded, you need to review and evaluate the responses. This is where you collect the data and classify the stars. How do we know which stars are good or bad? Let me remind you first of all of the previous steps. Remember that the first thing you do is to develop your recruitment criteria. The next step is for you to prepare the questions. And now this is the last step, which is where you collect the data and you classify the stars. To know the right star, the candidates will provide answers from actual cases. They will be very clear in describing specific actions they took, and they will describe clear results. The second type of star is what we call the insufficient star. In this case, the candidate will not know how to answer the question. The answers will not be specific, and the answers may only be theoretical. The third kind of star is the wrong star. This candidate will display a lack of knowledge, lack of experience, and lack of results. So, the classification of the stars in being right, insufficient, or wrong will help you determine which candidate you will shortlist for the next stage of your interview. Now that we have all our answers from the candidates, it's time to take a decision. And we do this by following another 3 steps. The first one is to analyze the data. This is looking at the responses against your competency levels that you have already prepared, evaluating and comparing the results, and making a decision. Interviewers, when you are interviewing, you must not forget that a star must have other qualities, such as ability to handle customer complaints and the ability to motivate subordinates if the position is a supervisory one. Once you have followed the steps above, you will be able to decide who to employ to the position you are recruiting for. All your efforts in recruiting and selecting the right candidate will come to nothing if you don't have a good compensation plan, which is what we will now talk about in the next session.